Welcome back to Swiss Cheese Trails. I'm hiking the Schächental Valley, which means Sheep Valley. And we're in the canton of Uri. And this is a part of the trail that we're getting closer to the bottom of the valley, closer to Altdorf. And we got some great views coming up here too. So I thought this was a good time to turn on and tell the story of William Tell. Now William Tell has become a focal point for the Swiss, well, since the events of 1307. That's when William Tell took place, 1307. That was 700 years ago. And William Tell effectively fostered in the whole concept of Switzerland being eventually a direct democracy, because William Tell stood up for not being ruled and oppressed by some foreign ruler. And here's how the story goes. There's lots of different ways to tell this, but I think this is the one that most of the Swiss have kind of settled on. All right, so William Tell and his son are here in the valley. This is where they grew up, or where William Tell was born. And so he goes into Altdorf with his son for whatever reason. And this, of course, is 1307, so it's the 1300s. And there's been a couple hundred years of feudal rule, lords, and the Habsburgs in particular have really started to dominate the scene. The Habsburg castle goes back to the early 1200s, and that's north of Zurich. And so they had been taking and ruling over lands for a long time. The Kyborgs, they're kind of by Winterthur, so that's kind of northeast of Zurich. And I think it's sometime in the 13 or 1400s that the Kyborg line ended and the Habsburgs took over the Kyborg land, because you can't just, let people who don't know how to rule. Anyway, so the Habsburgs appointed different regional rulers. Oh, what a cool sound. Sorry to interrupt. Wow, that is a cool sound. The water is clearly not visible. It's underground and it's kind of vibrating against both sides of the earth there. All right, so for lack of a better word, whether it's a tax collector or a local lord, I think his name was Glazner, something to that effect. It was the local lord. And so the lords, of course, had the concept where if they're out and about, the peasants had to bow down in sign of respect, and if they didn't, they were arrested and possibly killed. Great view down here. And so through whatever reason, the lords being out traveling around and not being able to get back home, or can't get to certain areas, or they're just plain lazy and kind of dickish people. Somewhere along the line, the idea of the lord's hat, the tax collector, whoever the person in charge for, in this case the Habsburgs, his hat represented him. So the hat would be ridden around by his people, and the peasants were reminded of who was in charge, and they had to bow down to the hat on a horse. Well, in Altdorf, apparently, Glazner put a permanent stake in the ground with a hat on it, and just that was his hat, and you had to bow down to the hat every time you passed by. William Tell shows up in town with his son, and he refuses to bow down to a foreign ruler and is promptly arrested. Now, William Tell had a reputation of being an expert marksman, bow and arrow, crossbow, also a big dude, strong guy. And so Glazner, the lord, again, if I'm messing up his name, I apologize. I'll get it right when we're down by the statue, or I'll try to tell the story more succinctly. Anyway, he wanted to see how skilled William Tell was. I'm going to turn off for a second. So I turned off because there was a hiker coming. Turns out I just spent about 40 minutes talking with him. He's a creator as well, doing more kind of documentary stuff. He finished one on Appalachian Trail, and he's now hiking the Alpina Trail #1 here in Switzerland. He's going in the opposite direction, so he's going to end up finishing in a couple of days. So anyway, that was kind of fun. All right, I left off with William Tell. All right, so William Tell's in Altdorf, doesn't bow down, he's with the son. Glesner arrests him and challenges him, says, "I'll let you live if you can shoot an apple off your son's head," says the story. So William Tell takes 2 quivers, loads them up, shoots the first one, and successfully shoots the apple off his son's head. As the story goes, Glesner said, "All right, you have your life, but I want to know why you pulled 2 arrows." And William Tell supposedly said, "The second arrow was for you. If I missed and killed my son, I was going to turn around and kill you." So that pisses off the Lord, who says, "Well, now I'm going to, throw you in jail for the rest of your life." Loads him onto a boat on the lower part of Lake Lucerne, and sets sail, according to the story, the myth. And there's a sudden storm on the lake. The boat, in order to save itself, has to come close to shore. William Tell jumps off the boat at the point that is now called Tell's Platte. There's a Tell's Chapel, a Tell Glockenspiel, bell tower, and a restaurant, and there is a boat dock there, so it's really easy to get to. You jump on one of the ferry boats, public transportation, and you can get off right at Tell's Platte, grab a meal and jump the next boat or walk around. That's also part of the Swiss National Trail. There's a trail called the Swiss Trail, which goes right around that bottom portion of Lake Lucerne. I've hiked it, but I hiked it before I brought cameras. And the length of it is to represent, when it was formed, every citizen. I think it was like a centimeter or 10 centimeters per citizen by canton. So all cantons are represented in the loop around, and that's the Swiss National Trail, which goes right past Tell's Platte. All right, so William Tell jumps ashore and escapes. He's pursued by the Lord, Glesner, and eventually, somewhere inland, Tell shoots him and kills him anyway. And that sets off a local rebellion. The local rebellion turns into this mythology of William Tell defying tyranny, and he becomes the figurehead, much like, I just watched Braveheart, much like, the Braveheart character became, the rallying call for Scotland's independence from Britain. So William Tell is one of the forefathers of Switzerland, and he grew up right around here. And Uri, of course, is, as I mentioned earlier, the first, or certainly one of the first 3 to form the old Confederacy, Swiss Confederacy, and that became the nucleus for what is now Switzerland. Switzerland, of course, as I've mentioned in other videos, has the strongest per capita military in the world, and everyone is forced to give their 18 months or 24 months, whatever the number is, post consignment. You are to keep your automatic weapon with you in your home until 35 or something like that. So there's a lot of armed people with automatic weapons. Yet we don't have the shootings here that you do in the States. Unfortunately, there's another one over the weekend, right 2 towns away from my hometown. And that's not at all okay. All right, so how did I want to leave this with William Tell? Wow, what am I going to do here? Oh, look at that. So strange. Okay, well, I've never seen one of these. All right, so this is like a 10-minute video, so I'm going to end it, but that's the William Tell story. I'll try to tell it again faster when I'm done with the statue. If I get to the statue. At this pace, I don't think I will. Thanks for tuning in today. Hope you've enjoyed the hike so far.